Hello, dear friends, lovely audiences. Welcome back to the show. Jack Chow on the East West Show with G&E TV. Today, starting with what happened with the Vegas last night, we moved on to a reality, talking about nowadays. We have another protection to do because we have a legal system, our justice system, whereby our attorneys, I mean good ones, only good ones, protect us, right? Good. Yeah. Now, to lots of people, attorney is just a name, right? When they win a case, they win a case. For example, with O.J. Simpson case, right? And they say them going back and forth, back and forth, and then, oh yeah, we know that the case is won, right? So to the day-to-day practice though, such as yourself, such as Scott, such as Rodriguez, those friends at your firm that I know of, so you go in and out. Are you approached by clients or you pick up the case, okay, that's the case I want to jump on?
Well, it's a great question, Jack. Mm-hmm. All of our cases, all of the cases that I handle, they come to us. Mm-hmm. Either my clients are referred to me by other lawyers, mm-hmm. or former clients that are asked by friends. My practice is referral only.
Word of mouth.
Lawyers, and then some lawyers, they advertise and they get business that way. Mm-hmm. My firm actually does not do that. Mm-hmm. We're referred by people who they know, and they can call the firm.
I see.
But lawyers in California and really anywhere else, they should never reach out to a potential client like that, because that person is vulnerable. And as a matter of fact, in California, lawyers aren't allowed to do that. And if they do, that's a violation for the state bar.
Oh, I see.
And that makes sense, right? Because if a person's been injured or if a loved one killed, the last thing that person needs to deal with is some lawyer or someone from a lawyer's office calling them up saying, can we represent you? Because the person doesn't know who's good and who's not, and they're not in a good position to make that decision.
I see.
So clients, if they need lawyers, they should talk to people who they trust and who they know and find out who's good out there, and then interview them. And if you interview a lawyer, and you should ask that lawyer, how often are you trying cases? How often are you representing people like me? And if you're promised a lot or overpromised and you feel like you're being sold a bill of goods, probably
in the case he just represented, whereby some Chinese tourists got hit by a truck, by a truck or a bus, right?
Yes.
Okay. So how did they find you?
Well, that's a very good question.
How did they approach you?
So the law office of Scott Wormuth has a great and long reputation here, and so those clients contacted that firm, and then Scott Wormuth at that firm contacted me and said, would you please partner with us to represent these people? And that's how that happens.
I see.
Because we can bring some experience to
advices we need, because we regular Joes in the suit, we know nothing about how we want to protect ourselves, how we can protect ourselves, right? So in a certain kind of situation, at which point do you recommend we better check if we need some legal protection, please?
Well, I think that the best advice would be, if you've been harmed by another person or a company or the government or anyone else at all, there's an idea in our law that says for every harm there's a remedy. So if someone has taken something from you or lied to you or hurt you or a loved one's killed, and you feel like that's not right, I would explore that and talk to a lawyer about it and see if there's a law against what happened to you. And for the most part, there would be. And I'm just trying to think of how I'm feeling. And for general advice, the advice I have for myself today is, I'm going to go and I'm going to hug and love on my kids and my wife today, because it makes you realize how quick it can be taken from us. And it's overwhelming. It's overwhelming sometimes, isn't it?
Yeah, of course, of course.
That's what I'm going to do today. Is I'm going to go home and love on my family, and because sometimes it gets brought home to you that's just so fragile.
Exactly. But thing, you know, you are an attorney. You're in attorney's mind. You know what is going on, what is dealt on a day-to-day basis.
Yes.
But to somebody like us, the average Joe, average Sue, if something happened, right, to us, to what extent do we have to ask for legal help?
Well, I think you should ask if there's any doubt. I'm not saying run down to the courthouse and file a lawsuit for any harm that happens. Sometimes it makes a lot of sense not to file a lawsuit.
Not to file,
But find out. And most lawyers, especially most good lawyers, they're not going to charge you for a consultation. And if you think that you've been harmed, but it doesn't matter by whom. It can be a private citizen, it can be the most powerful company, or the government. It can be, the law makes everyone equal. Go to a good lawyer, sit down and say, hey, this is what happened to me, what can be done about it? So that's.
Yeah, exactly. I have a friend, long time ago, I had this friend who died at a childbirth. That poor woman, right? And the husband, based on nothing, no knowledge of medicine at all, just firmly believed that nowadays nobody dies at childbirth, or seldom they die at childbirth, unless they have something uncommon, right? So from that point on, he started pursuing for legal help, and sure enough, justice was obtained.
Your friend pursued.
It's a true story.
He lost his wife. That's horrible. Medical negligence cases, there's a lot of mistakes out there. Medical negligence cases are lost 3 out of 4 times. So the courage and determination of your friend to get justice in that situation should be applauded, because he has to step forward, because the law is not going to come to him and protect him. He has to go forward and seek that protection. And one thing I would say, Jack, is you asked me what should someone do. Someone shouldn't wait, because there are statutes. They're called statutes of limitations, but there are time limits on when a person has to file a suit. So if a person's been harmed, what I would say is really don't wait. Time does not help you. Witnesses tend to forget, and there could be limits.
In this particular case, this friend of mine had nothing but one belief. Why would she die? Childbirth? Every woman do childbirth. Well, why would she die? Right? That firm belief started the whole thing, the spark of the whole thing, and led all the way to victory. That's amazing. That's amazing.
And I salute him for that.
Yeah. In other words, when something happens, don't take it as a fate, right? Don't take it as a fate. Don't accept it unless you really had to accept it, right? So especially in, well, some kind of a life-to-death struggle, well, those kind of issues, right?
Of course.
Very good.
I would not do that.
Okay. All right. My dear audience, today I'm learning. I feel I like going back to school. I'm learning a lot with my friend Thomas Johnson, former military service member for intelligence, U.S. intelligence, and came back an attorney in law. Oh, by the way, did you earn your law degree before military or after, or interval?
It was interesting. I was a lawyer before I went into the
I see.
The Navy was recruiting lawyers to become intelligence officers. And I was part of that program. And so that was...
Oh, yeah, you were a lawyer even before.
Yes.
Okay, very good. Veteran lawyer, both ways, all right. So, my dear audience, thank you very much. And to Thomas, thank you very much.
Thank you very much,
right?
Jack. Thank you.
Right. Hello, my dear friends, my lovely audiences. Welcome to the East West Show. Jack Shaw with the East West with G&E TV. Only to start the show with a very saddened heart over what we heard happening at Las Vegas Mandalay Bay Hotel Casino. Some folks died, some folks got injured. That hurts everybody's feeling. And our thoughts are with the families who lost their loved ones, and our condolences to the souls who were taken away by terrorists. So with me today is my good friend, Thomas Johnston, trial attorney, a very close friend. May I invite you to join me for a little moment of silence, please? Yeah, please. Thank you. Yes, life goes on. Life, whatever happened, life goes on, right? And with that thing, we want to learn, we want to find out what happened to the case. Even though the fact that upon several releases, they have 3 releases already, plus last night, there is very little about this man. What have you heard about this man or the incident so far?
Well, only what I've seen in the cable coverage. He seems to have been an accountant in his 60s, single, lived in the outskirts of Nevada. He had no military background that we know of now. Mm-hmm. No motive is currently known. His brother's been identified as a person who's been interviewed, who says that he was surprised by it. He was gambled. They say $100 hands in poker, video poker in cruise ships. And the brother reported that he owned some guns and knew of one long gun, but not any automatic weapons. But clearly, if you listen to the audio, the weapons being fired were automatic weapons.
Yeah, automatic.
Did you hear that, Jack?
Yeah, I heard that.
Yeah.
Kind of like 2 sessions. There's kind of like a reloading period, a moment of 30-something seconds, right?
Right. I mean, we think of, well, at least, you know, when you think of a sniper fire incident, you might think of boom, boom, boom. But listening to the audio, it's clear that it was automatic fire.
It was a random fire.
It sure seemed like it. And I think that you know, that brings up some very interesting questions about who the shooter was, what his motives were, because he was the man behind the weapon, and also his access to that type of weapon. And if that's appropriate.
Is automatic weapon legal in Las Vegas?
Yes.
Yeah, it is.
It is.
I see. Was he captured?
He committed suicide in his hotel room.
I see.
Before the police got there.
No motive yet?
No motive yet.
Okay. All right. Good.
But go ahead. I'm sorry, Jack.
Yeah. But the worst part is that he shots out of the window at an angle 32nd floor to the ground. You're talking about the best spot of shooting.
It's horrible. No place to hide, Jack.
No place to hide.
No place to hide. So what is so terrible is they were like they were just sitting there, and there was nothing that they could do. But you can imagine, it's hard to imagine, but imagine yourself in a pen, and lead is raining down upon you, and there's nowhere you can go, and there's nothing you can do. And they probably didn't know where it was coming from, at least not right away. And I think it's just an awful, probably the worst thing that could ever happen. You know, we talk about loss of life, and there's when life is taken by violence, I think it's so shattering to the families that their loved ones were murdered. So 58 people died, and that's 58 separate families, dreams.
The memory goes a lifetime.
and to have that, to take that from people is just extraordinary. And then the wounded, I mean, the wounded will live with that forever. Some will be worse hurt than others.
515 of them
it's hard.
wounded.
The numbers are so great, Jack. It's hard to get a handle on that. I mean, that's bigger than a 747.
I know that you were in U.S. Military for quite
Yes.
some time, and you're the one knowing guns, right?
Yes.
so at that angle, shooting that amount of bullets, that's a lot, right? So, I mean, to the target audiences, there's no way of hiding anywhere. No means, no way. All right.
It's let's just say the U.S. service weapon, the M4. Okay, that the capabilities of that weapon are extraordinary. That they can put rounds on target a long way away and be reloaded and do it again. They have 30 round magazines, usually probably 28 bullets in a 30 round magazine, and they can be fired and then reloaded and fired again and fired again, and they're capable of hitting their target from a long way away over and over and over again.
By hearing the audio, were you able to tell what kind of weapon was he using?
I could not tell. I don't know what kind of weapon he was using. One of the reports said there were 2 rounds found. One was a .308 round and one was a .223 round. Now, we use different designations in the military, but those weapons, the .223 round typically is put into the M4, and then the AK-47 that you've heard of is usually used with a .308 round. But the weapons that he had there were, I mean, that was a sustained automatic fire. Now, if one has an M4 and it's on semi-auto, that can be fired as fast as a person can pull the trigger. So it may sound like automatic fire, but it's a person repeating the trigger.
I see.
Or some of the M4s can have a selector where you hold the trigger down once and it'll repeat and fire.
And from 32nd floor, though, you're talking about the bullets coming from almost 2 o'clock.
Yes.
Like that kind of
right.
shedding on you.
Right.
Like raindrops.
It's
oh my God.
It's just it's hell.
Unless some snipers were on site, there's no way of even fighting back.
Well, let's just say someone was on site with a weapon, and that person was able to figure out where the fire rounds are coming from. For example, that person knows that the weapons aren't coming from this direction.
Okay.
So he says they must be coming, or she says they must be coming from this direction. And then he looks up and he sees muzzle flashes. Let's just assume all that happens. What's that person going to do? Return fire in a hotel and start shooting out those rooms? I mean, I don't think that is a viable option to return fire from the ground. So they had to go into that hotel to find their target. It's not a combat.
By the time he got there, it's gone already. It's done.
Right. I mean, but the police, what they were trained to do was to go into that hotel, find the shooter, and engage him. And but trying to engage from the scene, I don't think that's an option. Really, not a practical option.
So it was kind of a helpless situation.
Yes.
Anyway, right?
I think so.
Now we have schools being invaded. We have county centers, such as San Bernardino County centers, being invaded, and we have a concert in Open being invaded. So what are we going to do? We're in danger everywhere.
It's such an important debate that we have, and after shootings like this one, the Pulse nightclub, the San Bernardino shooting, Sandy Hook, the debate has been between half of the people in the country who say more should be done to control what weapons people get. About the other half of the country thinks that no matter what controls are put in, it's not going to change the outcome, that a bad person will do bad things no matter what.
Mm-hmm.
And if we look at it a little bit closer, it tends to be with people who own guns. So Americans who own guns tend to look at that as a fundamental right, that the Second Amendment gives me a right to keep and bear arms, and it's part of a freedom. Those who don't own guns tend to not look at it that way and think that there should be more controls put upon it. And it comes down to Democrat versus Republican. People who identify as Republicans tend to want less controls on guns, or think that won't make a difference, and people who identify as Democrats tend to want more controls and think it will make a difference. And what's interesting is why people have guns. And most people that have guns will say that the number one reason that person has a gun is for protection. And that makes it a lot more complicated of an issue.
Yeah, right. Yes.
I think the way I've thought about it, if I could tell you how I feel about it, is I think that we have to have some sort of common sense risk-benefit analysis. What is the risk of having some certain guns out in the market, automatic weapons, assault weapons, out on the market? What's the risk and what's the benefit? And the benefit, I think, is mostly people that use automatic weapons or assault weapons.
All right, let's take a short break.
Sure.
It looks like we need to really go into it to find the depth.
I think we do, Jack.
Yeah, please.
Thank you.
My dear audience, today with my good friend, Thomas Johnston. Everybody's learning. I believe everybody's learning. The sad moment, the sad day is still here, and the sadness is still hanging. We want to find out what exactly is wrong in the first place. Stay with us, please. Hello, dear friends. Welcome back to the show, Jack on the East West with G&E TV. Today we're talking about what happened last night in Las Vegas. Namely, everybody heard about it. The tragedy part we don't have to mention again. It is so hurting. Even the number hurts a lot. Right. With me is my good friend Thomas Johnston. Thomas has been in U.S. military service for quite some time. Retired, lucky him, intact. Right?
Yes, indeed.
Okay, whole body, whole piece.
Yes.
Full piece, right?
Yes.
Okay, and talking about, now he's a trial attorney. So from a military point of view, from legal point of view, and I believe he's the one to talk about it. And we touched a little bit about Constitution, the Second Amendment, right? And I don't need to ask you where you stand with the gun rights, but the gun rights thing is really a sweet and sour, right? So we were at the point about talking about the argument between the two sides about what sense does it make, right? And there are lots of people who say, for example, last time in London, when the guy ran their truck into the crowd zone, and there are comments saying that if anybody had a gun on the site, shoot back to the driver, that will stop him halfway or midway, at least reduces the total casualty. That's one take. So in what happened the last night, though, you just mentioned, even though somebody on the ground are equipped with weapons, there's no way of shooting back. Am I right?
Yeah, I don't think so. I think so. I mean, I don't think there's any way anyone could return fire into the hotel and be effective. It's probably more dangerous to other people in the hotel. And I understand the argument that if we had armed people.
Oh, by the way, now that we're on it, though, if somebody, an amateur, on the street, shot back in protection, right? In protection for the crowd, right? So is he legal or is he not legal?
Well, it looks at how reasonable his conduct was. He has a right to defend others and himself with lethal force if that's what's called for, and in that situation it's called for. So the people would look at, was it reasonable for him to return fire in that environment? So if he returned fire and he hits his target, of course that's legal, that's heroic. If he
But he missed.
He missed his target and hit someone else,
Yeah, he hit somebody else.
then the law would look at, was he acting like a reasonable person would in that circumstance by taking that shot and when he did. So they'd have to take a look at it to see if that was a reasonable.
Now, I'm
course
going to
of
check it.
action.
I wish there must there's some guy like that.
Oh, that would have been wonderful.
That'd be wonderful.
But
yeah.
you bring up a great point, Jack. Is what happens if we had more? Let's just say more guns, and people have weapons.
Yes.
And they have some training on how to use them. I think that some people would be able to do that, to have the weapon and be able to use it appropriately. But that is a huge burden to put on people. I think that current law enforcement and current military and some of the different military jobs would have the ability to pull a weapon, find a target, engage that target, and be able to do that. But that's a very rare skill set. And I also think it's perishable. So for someone that's been out of the military a long time and hasn't been training on how to use the weapon, and even though that person used to know how to use the weapon, that skill set perishes. And same with former law enforcement. There was a time in that person's life where she was trained on how to do that, but that training wears off over time. So I think it's probably a very difficult burden to put on a citizen, even a veteran or former law enforcement, to be able to engage a target. I think that'd be a great scenario. If a citizen was able to save lives that way, I applaud it, and I think it's great. I just think it might not be that realistic.
And what is more realistic is probably to ban, a total ban. Do you think so?
Well, now we have to be very specific on what we're talking about. Let's say machine guns, okay?
Automatic rifles.
Okay, automatic rifles, assault rifles. Let's be very specific. Let's say the military M4, the same one given to the military, that has a high capacity magazine, 30 rounds, and has the ability to eject a magazine and reload a magazine. Let's use that specifically.
All right.
Okay. Should that be available to the public? That's the question.
All right.
Let's put it through a risk-benefit analysis. What is the benefit to a member of the public having that?
Yes.
Okay, so there's some, let's say, home defense. Okay, so now this person has the weapon and can defend her home or his home. Are there other weapons that can do that? A shotgun can do that. Can a bolt-action rifle do that? Can a semi-automatic rifle with a smaller magazine do that?
Pistol do
a
that.
handgun, yes, and yes. Okay, I think all those things are true. Now, what's the risk? Okay, so now the risk is that some killer gets that weapon and uses it against us.
Yeah.
And in my view, I think the risk is more than the benefit. And I think that needs to be taken into account in a common sense way.
That's a very thorough analysis. I like that statement. Okay, you're an attorney, and I also understand that our law is kind of case laws, right?
Yes.
Okay, now, so when the term case laws are concerned, we're talking about, are there more scenarios when this benefit is, or are there more scenarios when this risk is?
That's right. I mean, a lot of things in the law, there's a benefit analysis, because with some things there's good and some things there's bad, and it needs to be weighed. So, for example, what we've seen now, one of the countermeasures used by terrorist groups and killers is they're running people down in the roadway with their cars. Okay? So there's mass killings and mass maimings by car. So what are we going to ban cars? Okay, so let's put it through the risk-benefit analysis.
A car used as a weapon.
Yeah, so car used as a weapon. Let's take a look at the car. What's the benefit? Jobs. Get the kids to school. live your life, go from town to town, go from state to state. What's the risk of a killer doing it? Well, maybe a killer could do it, but that risk, although it's awful when it's done, doesn't happen that much. So then you do the analysis, the benefit is much bigger than the risk.
Yeah, in comparison, the car does more benefit than risk.
Yes.
And in same analysis, a weapon does more harm than benefit.
Well, right, that specific weapon, that M4, in my view.
Yeah, you're
but
right.
let's look at a different type of weapon. Let's look at a Remington 700 bolt-action rifle. What's the benefit? Well, you know what? That's a weapon that people have been hunting with for decades, generations.
All right.
And they use that to go hunt deer with their children. And it's been part of the sportsman culture since it's been made. So that's benefit, and it's good to, it's recreation, and there's more benefit for target shooting. And although not the ideal weapon in my view for home defense, maybe it could be used for that. And so there's a lot of benefit. And then there's some risk, okay? A bad guy could get a Remington 700, and it's a very effective weapon. But because it's accurate, but it's bolt action. So you're never going to get the boom, 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 boom with that. So you're not going to get the loss of life with an automatic weapon in a mass shooting. And so I think that the benefit outweighs the risk.
As a conclusion, after the analysis in between benefit and risk, right, we can still go into it to do something specific to certain weapons. At least reduce it from automatic to semi or even to single shots.
Yes.
There are still things can do.
I think so. And I think that, I think that to have civilian automatic weapons where one can hold a trigger down and it shoots as fast as it can is ridiculous. I don't see a civilian use for that. The difficulty is that these M4 weapons can be fired rapidly as fast as one can pull the trigger.
So far as you can pull the triggers. Right?
And that's a big problem too, because that is almost the same as an automatic weapon that way. So I think that we have to really look at the risk and benefit of those types of weapons. The Second Amendment matters, and it protects the right to keep arms. And I think that the type of arms that we're talking about is important.
Yeah. To simply say yes or no is not the answer.
It's too
complicated. To get into analysis, to sober-mindedly find out what can be banned, what can be kept, are much better thought, right?
I think so, Jack.
Very good. Today with my good friend, Thomas Johnston, I'm learning another lesson about how we want to protect ourselves by applying to Amendment number 2. However, we'll still got a job to do to see if there is any comparison between benefit and the risk. If the benefit goes more than risk, of course, and how about otherwise, right? So thank you very much for watching, and we wrap it so much for the shooting. And when we come back, we'll pick up his another profession, his attorney, trial attorney to be more precise, about to see who recently he helped win and who and how, something like that. We're talking about we have protection from military, we have protection from attorneys. So stay with us, we'll be right back, please. Hello, my lovely friends, my dear friends. Welcome back to the East-West discussion. Jack Zhao is your host with G&E TV. Joining me, my good friend, Thomas Johnston. He is a former U.S. military service member and intelligence. Am I right?
Yes, thank you, Jack.
You got it in intelligence. This.
Thank you, Jack.
That's very intelligent to me.
Thank you.
And also, he is a trial attorney. Recently, I called him several times. He was rejected because he was in court fighting. So recently, how many have you protected? and have you won, and how, please?
Oh, well, thank you, Jack, for bringing that up. I've been doing this for 18 years now, and I'm a trial lawyer for people. And when people have been injured or a loved one killed because of the fault of another person, California and the U.S. Constitution gives them the right to go to court to seek a remedy for that. And that's what we do. That's been my career. And we have a very busy practice. And this year has been focused, it seems, on injuries and death in big transportation. So in March.
Oh, speaking of that, yesterday somebody's leg was cut off downtown LA by a train, by an off-duty train.
Well, those are the types of matters that need to go to court to address, because when members of the community look at what happened to somebody and why, there's a chance to get justice for that. So the cases that we've been focused on have been some trucking accidents this year. And in March, we had a trucking accident go to trial in Riverside, and we were successful in resolving that case for someone who was hit by a truck.
I see.
And then when you were trying to have me on your show as a guest, very kind of you, we were it started trial in Pasadena on a case where 2 citizens from China were on a tour here, and their tour bus went off the road on the way to Vegas and slammed on the ground.
Oh, at a stop sign thing, right?
Yes.
I see. So you were representing them.
Yes, I was a trial lawyer on that case, and with the law office of Scott Wormuth, we worked on that case together.
I see.
And the insurance company offered, I think it was $250,000 to settle the serious case.
I see.
But after we started trial, it resolved for 10 times that, which shows the power of going to trial. And so that's what we did. And it's
did you win for them?
Well, the case, it was a win, 100%. But the case resolved after we started trial, so it's settled after we started.
Settled, yeah.
But after we started trial.
But that's a win anyway.
Oh, it's a big win. And so what I think
not
is,
a word to scared off.
Well, I think they had to look at their likely outcome, and it was better for them to settle. And
I see.
But I think the key to those types of cases is to get them to trial. I don't think that the sophisticated carriers, they don't pay a lot until they are in the trial itself or confronted with the trial, and that's when they make their
How often a case goes to trial? I heard that lots of cases going to trial, got settled or got backed off before they go to trial.
Well, that's very true. The majority of cases settle before they go to trial. But what I've found in the last, let's say, 5 years, that the client is often benefited by going all the way. And when I say going all the way, that means going to court and saying, we don't want to settle, we want our trial. And then if some business can be done once the trial starts, that's a better time to try to settle the case. And if it can't be resolved, then the verdict, the jury decides. And I think both ways are okay. If the case starts trial and then settles, that's good. If it goes to a verdict, that's fine too. But I found that the best thing for clients, across the board, is to take their case all the way into court itself. It takes longer, and it's more frightening, but a person will get more justice if he or she can find the courage and trust in their lawyer to go all the way.
Yeah, you're right. Yeah.
I think it's important.
I recall reading a novel by Sidney Sheldon, bestseller, one of the bestsellers, talking about a trial case. A woman lawyer, very young, took over a body injury case. The poor woman was kind of amputated all her limbs. All she had was a torso, right? She represented her, right? So it was kind of a going back and forth all the time. And she is so determined, so stubborn, decided to go ahead to all the way till trial. And there are many offers she turned down, right? At the trial, at the trial final, there came the juror verdict with a note. So, can we go exceed the amount claimed?
Oh, that's great.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's great.
So, is that an exaggeration, or that could happen?
Yes, that can happen, and I think it does happen. And what it shows is the value of the courage of that lawyer to press all the way. And the jury, it's up to the jury to decide how much money to give. The lawyers can make recommendations, which we do.
All right, okay.
But it's the jury that wins the case.
In this case, a note sent out to say, can we go exceeding the claimed amount?
Yes.
And sure enough, when the answer says yes, it went almost double
So that's
the exceeding amount, right? So you are the one of the very few lawyers who I hear from that it is more beneficial if you believe you have a case, right?
yes.
You're more beneficial go all the way, spearhead it all the way, rather than to, of course, when the offer is good. So how do you make the judgment? I know that you are the brain. Not only you're the protection of your customer, also you're the brain for your customer, for your clients.
Right. It comes down to judgment. It's the client's decision, but our advice is based on what our judgment is. And also what I do and what we do before trial is we do mock trials with members of the community that would likely serve in that jury pool. And I use the feedback that we get from the practice trials as intelligence as to what the real jury might do,
I see.
at least with some of the danger points.
Like a pilot.
Yeah, so we practice and hone, and we take the feedback to try to give more information on how to advise the client once the trial starts.
Good, good. What is the reason the case that you just won?
Well, this case was, like I said, a case involving the two Chinese tourists were here touring the United States, were injured in a bus crash on the way from Los Angeles to Las Vegas. And like you described it, the driver was getting off the roadway in Barstow and went off the road, and they suffered injuries to their low back. And we were able, she had surgery and it was serious, and we were able to get a good outcome for her.
Oh, I
the other
see. So they
passenger.
survived.
Yes, they did survive.
They survived.
Yes.
Very good. So when I call you, when you text me, say, I'm in court, the jury trial, though that was the case.
Yes, that was the case.
Was the case. All
yeah,
right.
so-
Very good. Very good. So, okay. So is there lots of conversations or just the paperwork?
With regards to being in court,
Yeah,
well,
in
once-
court, the full trial court, though.
once you're in court, there's the paperwork happens before the trial starts and after the trial ends for the day. And for the most part, it's putting testimony and evidence into a record. So if you went into a courtroom, once the trial's begun, what the lawyer's trying to do is put information in front of the jury and also put information into the record so that if there's a court of appeals that reviews it, that the evidence is clear what was in the record in that case. So that's evidence comes in two ways. Testimony, someone talking about what he or she saw, and then actual physical evidence. Maybe it's a document, maybe it's a photograph or a video. And then there's, so then the jury gets the testimony and then the physical evidence, and then the jury decides what happened and what to do about it.
Yeah. Well, in the novel that I read, what won her such a big award was that she did nothing. She played one with a video of her, a regular day of her. So from the moment she wakes up, how she takes a shower, with only a torso, no limbs at all, right? Till all the way into the evening when she goes to bed. Of course, with the helpers,
Yes.
right? Like that. And then after seeing that, the jury members all cried. They made a decision. All right, my dear audiences, we are so happy we have a system and that our law works and we have diligent lawyers who works very sober-mindedly and winning cases. One of them is my good friend, Thomas Johnston. Well, let's take a very short moment out. When we come back, we'll probably ask him for some advices in situation that people thought they are hurt. Right? What are we going to do? Stay with us, please.